Welcome to the Gyroplane Flying Podcast.
Hi and welcome to Gyroplane Flying. This is Joe Covelli with Air Command and Skywheels. I'm privileged to be joined today by Keith LeMire. Keith is our design engineer for Air Command and Skywheels, and Keith has done a lot of work on redesign of the aircraft and a lot of the parts that we'll be sharing with you. This is an important demonstration because we'll give you a first-hand look at a lot of the detail on the newly designed Air Command Gyroplane. So Keith, welcome to the program. I appreciate you being on today.
Thanks, Joe. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us, and we look forward to learning more about all the details with the newly refreshed Air Command Gyroplane. Hundreds of parts, hundreds of drawings have all been redone. And just to give you a little bit of history on where we started from, I purchased Air Command back in 2017. And when we purchased the company, we were provided an airframe, and the airframe looked like that. It's, if you're familiar with Air Command, you'll know this right away. It's a single-seat Air Command centerline thrust gyroplane. And so when I again purchased the company in 2017, this is the aircraft that was provided. One of the things that we realized early on is that we received some drawings, but not everything that we needed to replicate this. So when you take something like this and move it into manufacturing, there were some challenges. And Keith, I know you'll remember this. We ended up having drawings for the rotor head, the joystick assembly, and the pre-rotator, but everything else, there wasn't anything. No drawings, no technical information. So we really had to start from scratch. I'm sure you remember those days.
Yeah, I think we had the nose wheel too, but that was it then. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, pretty limited. I've known Keith for a long time, around 30 years, and we go to the same church in Stillwater, Minnesota. We've known each other a long time. And so Keith came up to me one day after church and said, "Hey, I heard you bought a gyroplane company," and I remember it so well, and said, "Hey, do you mind if I come over and check it out?" And he did, and we never let you go since. So welcome to the team.
I've been kind of hooked into this, yeah.
Yeah, you were. So let me show you how hooked in he was. So shortly after we met, we determined what we needed to do. And one of the first things we did was disassembled what you just saw so that Keith in his office here could remeasure all the parts, come up with some technical drawings using SolidWorks. SolidWorks, if you're not familiar with that, it's a professional design program. By doing the drawings, it gave us the opportunity to create a spec for the part. So when we go to machine or make the part, we actually have something to follow. And it allowed us to really get started. So Keith, I'll let you go ahead and I'll stop sharing my screen here and allow you to go ahead and transition and share your screen. So in the next minutes, 30 minutes or so that we have together, Keith is going to be giving us a very detailed look at all of the work that has been done these last many years. And when coming into this, one of the things that we really looked at doing is how can we refresh the vehicle, the Air Command Gyroplane, to have a more current look? How can we make it easy to assemble and fun to fly? Those really were our goals coming into it. And what we didn't realize is how many parts had to be drawn, hundreds and hundreds of parts. And I have to say, not only did we draw the parts for what you see as the single-seat gyroplane, but we also drew the parts for the Air Command tandem and the Air Command side-by-side, and also the centerline thrust. But for today's discussion, we're going to focus in on the new, refreshed, single-seat Air Command gyroplane. So Keith, I'll let you go ahead with it from here.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things you touched on, Joe, that I know we haven't talked too much about is the easier to assemble aspect of this. Is a lot of the parts that were manufactured in the past were done with jigs and things that you received when you purchased the company, and we found that some of these jigs and stuff were kind of made to a previously disassembled aircraft, if you will. And some of that resulted in some fit issues and things that didn't line up perfectly. And a lot of the holes were drilled at assembly and things like that. So one thing that we did find when we finally did get around to assembling the first new airframe and taking it to AirVenture, we did manage to assemble the aircraft in a real short amount of time, just due to the fact that all the fits and angles actually were very accurately machined and makes it kind of a breeze to assemble. So that was one of the things that I know we haven't touched too much on, but.
Does it start at the nose wheel? I know that was an important change right away from the beginning.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the first things we addressed is getting a little bit different take on the nose wheel, something that was a little more updated looking and also a little bit easier to service, and something that didn't look quite as low tech as what the original did. I know the bearings, it didn't have live bearings in it. It had some bushings in the nose wheel, which tended to wear out and things like that. And also, along with that, due to the fact that we were going to change how the brakes and the rudder pedals operated, it kind of necessitated doing something a little bit different with the nose wheel. So we actually went from a welded structure to a machine structure here, as you can see. This, if I can hide this piece here, you can see that we've got like an interlocking feature here that locks the part in place before it's bolted on. Gives it additional strength and rigidity. We also did some finite element analysis on this to evaluate the strength of that fork, and we can sustain a very hard hit on that nose wheel. That's never supposed to happen, but if it does happen, we're very confident in the strength of these parts. These are machined out of 70-75 aircraft grade aluminum. The forks are. Most of the rest of the aircraft is made out of 60-61 aluminum. Just a whole host of things done a little bit differently. Our steering rods are now, instead of being just threaded rod, these are a machined part, a little bit heavier duty, a little bit easier to assemble. And one of the things that's new is an actual spherical bearing inside the bell crank here. So when you're turning, these rods actually pivot inside the bearings here, and it gives it a lot smoother feel to the steering. So other than that, we've got some hard stops now on the nose wheel to eliminate any danger of turning too hard, and that's these pins here. There's a definite hard stop on each side, so you can't turn too sharp in an attempt to eliminate having rollover issues during run and taxi. A whole host of things with the rudder pedals, I guess. This is a whole new design. The previous Air Command gyro had heel brakes, and they weren't very easy to access with your heels, as I recall people saying. It was a little bit awkward to get your foot into position to use those brakes. So it was Joe's idea to come up with something that would use differential braking, more like a fixed wing aircraft, just for people who are, coming from the fixed wing community and maybe getting into gyroplanes for the first time, making them feel like a little bit more in control of what they were doing and a little more familiar feel to it. So we added toe brakes here that pivot from the top, and then the actual pivot of the arm is here, and that controls both the front steering as well as the push-pull cable, which controls the rudder. So a little bit of kind of trial and error. We've gone through several iterations of this to make this operate a little more easily and a little more smoothly. So we're about to try the final iteration here. As soon as we get our parts back, we'll be putting those back on the aircraft and see if the changes we made require more refinement. But I think we're on the right track with that.
I think a really important consideration, because we talk about not only bringing the look up to current standards, but it's also safety enhancements. And I think one of the important safety enhancements is the adjustable rudder pedals. I recall talking with Greg Bradley, our test pilot. Greg's in Kansas City. He's flown Air Command for many years, 35 years. And his one comment that I always remember is, if you want me to test fly your new product, I'll need to be able to fit in it. And given the history of Air Command, those rudder pedals were always fixed. They were literally bolted to the front keel. And Greg would not fit in a standard Air Command gyroplane where those pedals were secured. So it led us down the path of how can we create a safer operating environment for student pilots. Obviously, you don't have a second seat, so where does the instructor go? Well, in this environment, the instructor can actually adjust the pedals for their proper position for themselves, take the aircraft for the first flight of the lesson, and then when they come down and after the aircraft's been trimmed out and so on, they can adjust them if required for the student pilot, and the student pilot would be in a position to adjust the rudder pedals to the setting that's required for their length of feet and operation and control. So I look at that as a significant safety feature, and it really started out from Greg's comment, how do I fit in it? And so that was really something came up. Keith came up with this design, which I think is very good. It's very easy, and to make the adjustment, which we'll see here in just a minute, is about 30 seconds of time. It doesn't take long to adjust these pedals, and no tools are required. That's the other really nice thing.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the challenges with doing the whole nose wheel as it relates back to the pedals, is making something that's going to be a fail-safe design, something that if it comes down to it, you're not going to have issues with something coming apart on you, which could be a really bad day if you're getting ready to take off or you're coming in for a landing. So we had to design it in a fail-safe way. So one of the parts to that is making these pins a locking type pin. So these are operated by pushing the center button in here and retracting the pin. And those pins go all the way through the actual pedal carriage here and through the front keel of the aircraft and come out the backside, and you can see there's a locking ball on this side that retains that. So there is virtually no way to extract those pins unless you're truly meaning to. You have to push those in quite hard. But if you retract these two pins, there's a set of 4 positions. I think it's shown in about the middle position right now, but it goes all the way up to the front here, where this carriage would be actually sitting right flush to the front here. And also, one thing to note, we've got some castle nuts here and safety pins. You can remove these pins and bolts quickly, and by selecting different holes in here, you can actually adjust the angle of the pedals as well. So if you need a little bit of additional room, you can select the next hole and tilt those pedals back just a little bit further away from you, or you can bring them forward some if you're still having problems reaching the pedals. If in the case of a real short pilot, or if you're kind of in between adjustments, let's say. So there's a lot of flexibility in the adjustments for the comfort of the operator. So I think that's a really good thing.
And as far as the pedal itself, Keith, can you explain the operation of the pedal itself? Because I know there's a few different features with that, both as a brake and as a rudder.
Right. So the pedal actually is attached using this bolt right here, and this is kind of a pivot point. And you'll see the brake piston here, the master cylinder. So as you tip this brake forward, you'll be applying the right hand brake. And these operate independent, left and right. And the pivot point for the whole pedal is down here, and that controls both your steering and your rudder cable is attached right here via a rod end bearing. So the operation is both a push operation with your feet to control your steering, as well as a tipping operation with your ankle to brake either right or left, and that provides some additional control while you're on the ground, which is I think a really nice feature.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I consider that an important safety feature, like I had mentioned, with training and transition and things like that. So that's good. And a lot, like you had mentioned, a lot of airplane pilots are used to having the braking option available to them. The instrument panel is a fiberglass instrument panel. The fiberglass parts we are receiving right now so that we can get them installed for the instrument panel. But it's a lot of surface area there. A lot of instruments can fit in that space.
Yeah, and that's one difference from I think the old instrument pod. If you went back to that previous slide, the old instrument pod was quite a bit smaller, I think, and it had kind of a dated look to it too. I know, which is what our product designer Joe had hired a product designer to go through and kind of update the look of some of the fiberglass parts, and this was kind of one of the key features in kind of updating the look and kind of bringing it forward from the 80s look more to something current. And I think the designer did a great job of making something that was both form and function wise very good. I think we've got plenty of room in there for the instruments that we need, and also for all your electrical equipment and things that have to go up in the front side of the aircraft there. And I think this is a great addition. I think people are really going to like that.
I do too. I think it has a nice aerodynamic look to it. We have the pitot tube on the front end, which is integrated into the design. It's very nice and sharp. I think the thing too with the cover, there's two different covers that we made for this. One cover at the lip, Keith, if you could just point your mouse maybe there where the cover lip is. Yeah, right there. There's a lip there. We have a flat lip, which would be total open air, or we have a lip that actually flares up a little bit where a windshield or windscreen could be attached, so blocking the wind. We offer that as a very simple option, so it's either one or the other. Then we have a pilot hoop that protects the pilot's legs coming into the instrument panel. And that, I think, is a nice feature also. It gives the frame some rigidity and some structure, but it also gives us the structure for the full enclosed or partial enclosed options that will be available with this design. So there's a lot of different features that are built into it. Since this is a raised centerline thrust gyroplane, we have a step that you can step up into. And one thing we noticed at AirVenture in 2023 when we unveiled the initial design is people were a little clumsy because they had to rest their feet on the tubes, the front tubes, just underneath the seat. There really was nowhere to put your feet when you tried to get up into the aircraft, and it was just a little clumsy. So what we created was a landing pad. It's really just at the base of the instrument panel there. And Keith, maybe, yeah, there it is. You can show it. You can see a landing pad right there in front of the joystick. right where Keith's mouse is. And that's a nice feature because you have a place to push your foot. It's flat, it's sturdy, and you don't have to juggle around to try and get in. It's very smooth and simple now to get your leg around the joystick and sit in the seat, so as well as exiting the vehicle.
Yeah, that's one of the things when we were actually doing the testing of the rotor blades in Missouri. One of the pilots had a centerline thrust model like this, which tends to be pretty high. And Bill was an older gentleman. He was, I believe, in his 80s. And for him to get up into the centerline thrust model, he used to have to bring a stool out. And then even then, it was kind of a cumbersome type of thing. He was in a full, at the time it was a little bit chilly, so he was in a full flight suit, trying to get up in there, and it made it a little bit awkward. So that was one of the feedback things we got from quite a few people. So we not only added the landing platform, which does help you get over the top of the joystick, but we also added a step on the side of the aircraft where it makes it a very natural way to get up into the aircraft. And people, when we went to AirVenture the following year and they were able to use the step to get up in there, people were really surprised at how easy it was to get up in there. So I think those are both really good additions, for people to be able to get up in the aircraft without difficulty, and having to have a stool and all these kinds of things. I think it's a great addition.
The throttle is really updated.
And this was one of the this was taken from an older design that our test pilot had, and he suggested making this addition to the aircraft because it adds a parking brake, which previously we didn't have, which is a real nice feature. It's got a ratchet pawl up here that when you engage the brake, you also have a pawl to hold it, and just a click of the finger right here on this lever, and that releases the parking brake. That's really a nice feature. One of the things that we did since the last iteration, because this is, I think, the second or third iteration we've done of kind of making some subtle changes to the controls here, is we've moved this a little bit forward because it was kind of in a little bit of an awkward position. The old Sky or Air Command throttle control was quite far back, and it was a little difficult to reach. So now we've moved that forward some, and we've now added the pre-rotator control is on the same control as the throttle instead of having it on the stick here, which actually does make things a little bit nicer, not having that pre-rotator basically like a bicycle brake handle that used to be on the stick here. It should be very easy for the pilot to just reach down and squeeze that, and at the same time be able to feather the throttle. And that technique we'll probably demonstrate at some point on a future video. But there's also a tension control here that controls how much tension is on the throttle control itself, so that it'll stay where you put it. And that may vary from pilot to pilot on how stiff they want that. So that's a nice feature to have added.
And that's also the knob that's sticking out the front of the throttle, right? The tension control is the knob.
Yep, correct. That's just
so it's easily accessible.
Yep. And I've got there we go. Now
there. It's marked.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then if we look underneath here, one thing we've also added is an adjustment slot here, so that the pilot can make it customized to where they feel it's most comfortable. People have different length forearms, and that's kind of going to determine, where they want where they want that throttle to be, where it's, very comfortable to fly for them instead of just, well, it's okay. You should be able to customize this to really provide a good experience when you're flying. It's just one less thing you have to think about when you're, trying to reach the controls and, having to kind of look down. And I think it'll be really nice to just have the controls right where you're expecting them to be when you put your arm down. So that's another nice thing that we've added.
And not only is it the forward and back, but looking at the underneath side again, there's 3 levels of slots. And so not only can it be adjusted forward and back, but also up and down.
Correct.
So,
correct. Yep, that's a good point.
It's multi-purpose.
Yep, and that's one of the things that we've really focused on. In addition to, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with safety. Is having the pilot be as comfortable as they can be when they're flying, and have the controls be in intuitive places so that they could be, if you have to make a quick adjustment to something, you got the controls right there, and you're not fumbling, reaching for them. So I think this is really going to be nice, a comfortable aircraft to fly.
Is the fuel pump that's integrated into the seat. That's a completely new feature for us. Air Command has made the 10-gallon seat for many years. And one thing we did is modified the mold to be either closed or open. And this is the open version, where the fuel pump is actually in the side of the aircraft. We'll just discuss more about the Polaris engine at a later date, but we needed to integrate the fuel pump into the seat because that's how the fuel pump is with the Polaris ATV engine. And so do you want to explain a little bit more about that, Keith? And that'll be something that's available as a standalone item also to customers that want a seat tank with an integrated fuel pump.
Yeah, and I think this is a really great addition overall. It puts it takes the fuel pump off of the airframe, which in some cases, you've got quite a bit of stuff mounting to the airframe as it is, and this is just one more thing that we've managed to tuck away in a spot that really is ideal. It works better, and it also prevents fuel starvation. You're not relying as much on tubes coming to and from the tank. Things that can get damaged, things that are external. I think this really adds a nice touch to that. And one of the other things that it provides as well is we looked at using an ultrasonic sensor for fuel level sensing. With the controls that you have available today with engine monitoring systems and things like that, it's very easy and seamless to take a control that senses the amount of fuel left in the tank. You'll still have a sight glass available on this tank, but again, to avoid having to take your eyes off of the controls, it's nice to be able to just reach down and see how much fuel you have left, or have that displayed in front of you, as opposed to trying to look back behind you at the sight glass and check your fuel level. The sight glass will still be there for an auxiliary check, but I think that'll be a real nice feature along with the electric pump. So I think incrementally, I think we as a team have kind of we forget about all the subtle changes and nice features that we've added, but as you start incrementally going through them, you'll see how much the aircraft has really changed. One of the problems that we noticed, and quite by literal accident, is Joe was traveling with the prototype aircraft, or the one that he had purchased when he purchased the company, on the back of a trailer, and I think he hit a tree branch. Is that correct, Joe?
I hit a low-hanging tree branch, and it was a big tree branch, and it was dark. So things happened for a reason. It came to light that there was some things that we needed to do to address how that was all connected with the joystick, and some bolts that were very difficult to access to check torque. So
Yeah, and
it led to an improvement.
it did lead to an improvement. As we looked at it, what ended up happening is the bolt in the back, which is now actually a nut with a cotter pin going through it. There was a bolt that went through this bearing into the joystick bar here at the bottom, and that bolt actually the impact that Joe incurred actually tore the threads out of the part, which wasn't a very obvious thing to Joe either. It was later inspection where it turned up, and that could lead to a fatal crash. I mean, that in all honesty, that was probably one of the most dangerous things that could happen to the aircraft, is something having to do with the flight control here. If you lost that bolt, you'd basically lose control of the aircraft. So what we ended up doing is we ended up taking this, and our first inclination was to put a steel thread insert into there, and that did strengthen it, but it added some steps in the manufacturing process that we didn't necessarily like, and there still wasn't really a good way of other than Loctiting that bolt into there. There wasn't really a good way of retaining it. So we came up with the idea, instead of using a bolt, is machining this, and I can open this up so we can take a look at that quick. Hopefully. We actually, instead of using bolts, now we machine this out of a piece of steel, and have these studs on the end are machined out of a square piece and then threaded on the ends. Then they have cross-drilled holes for adding cotter pin through. So we'll be using a castle nut and a cotter pin to secure those, and that really does add a nice safety feature, being that this bar not only has to pivot front and back, but also side to side to steer the aircraft. There was really no good way of safety wiring a bolt with those conditions. Everything had to kind of pivot. So I think the addition of a cotter pin in there and a castle nut really adds some security to the flight control. And it gives I think it gives everybody a better peace of mind knowing that particular portion is secured in there. So I think that's a really great addition to the aircraft.
One of the other things that we looked at too, as long as we're near the mast, over the years, Air Command has had a few different iterations with the mast. Back in 1984, when Dennis Fetters started with Air Command, he took a lot of the same theories and thoughts that Igor Benson had, and they came out with a 2x2 mast. And the intent with a 2x2 mast is, if the aircraft tips over, the mast will break off and the rotor blade will separate the aircraft for safety purposes. And unfortunately, there were mast breakoffs, but it was at inappropriate times, either flying the aircraft or pre-rotating. And so Harold Smith came into the ownership of Air Command, and as an aeronautical engineer, identified right away something needed to change with that design. So he came up with the 2x2, but he used two 2x2s that were sandwiched together, gave an inside wall for some rigidity and additional support, made a significant difference. One thing we thought of is, as long as we're going through the process here, and if we can strengthen the strength of the mast, let's look at doing it. So what we ended up going to was a 2x3, two 2x3s, or two 1x3s. Yeah, two 1x3s. And previously it was two 1x2s. I should clarify that. So we went from two 1x2s to two 1x3s, and we increased the strength of the mast times 3. So a significant increase in the strength of the mast. But Keith, maybe you want to highlight it from there.
Yeah, and that really it did change a bunch of things on the aircraft, but also it looks more appropriate, I think, from an aesthetic point of view. The 1x2 sandwich 1x2 mast looked, especially in light of all the other changes we made, just looked a little bit narrow for the rest of the design. So everything got a little bit more stiffened up without adding a whole lot of weight or material. It really was a great safety addition, and keeps the mast from flexing quite as much. In addition, we had alluded to the Polaris engine briefly, and I think the additional horsepower that we'll be getting out of there is it's nice to have that additional strength too to the airframe. So I think that's another great safety feature, is having that additional strength on there.
Keith, if you pull out a little bit, we can get a nice perspective on the aircraft, because I think one thing that stands out to me as I look at it here from the side view is all the triangular, where everything comes together. It's all triangular for support. You look at the engine and how it's mounted in this triangular supports. You look underneath the engine, the triangular supports. You look to the front, you see the triangular supports under the seat with the front keel and the keel support tube. It's all triangulated. Even the instrument panel is triangulated with 2 posts.
Right, absolutely. That was one of the things. Some of it was a holdover from the original design, but some of the other things that I had kind of added, and one of those is in adding that step that we had talked about earlier. We actually took that and just made that from one plate here, and that really kind of ties everything together up front here. It ties the bottom support for the front keel together, along with the instrument panel, and along with the main front keel running horizontally. So that the additional mass of this plate and coming back really stiffens the whole thing up. In addition to even the step here actually adds some structural strength to the whole assembly. So I think just by nature of the way we did things, I think it just made things just a little bit better. I think the lower cluster plate was pretty close to this in the original design. There were just some little minor things we did with how this lower support attaches to it. So there was just a lot of small tweaks that I think we did to make things look a little nicer and function a little better, strengthen everything up just a little bit.
If we look at the back too, along the rear keel, of course you see the parachute mounted underneath the engine, pointed away from the aircraft, down and away. And we'll have more information on that shortly. But we do have the option with the parachute as a safety enhancement on the aircraft. Of course, we always suggest doing auto rotation if there's an engine out or an issue that comes up. We always suggest doing auto rotation the safest way, and it's a way that's trained as a part of flying an aircraft. But the parachute is an option B for a potential catastrophic situation, loss of control, whatever it might be. If we move back more towards the tail, for those that are familiar with Air Command, this tail is completely different. The old tail was a full functioning tail where the entire tail would move. Both the horizontal stabilizer and the rudder would move together. This tail is different. The movable part is the rear part of the rudder where you see the white hinge. And so it's not a full functioning rudder anymore. It's a partial functioning rudder, as you see on the back. So it's completely different. Plus the rudder is style has changed. It looks a lot more stylish than the old rudder, which had more of a flat panel. This has more of an aerodynamic look.
Right, and one of the things that's different about this, the old pivoting tail, as we call it, it's all made of about a 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch thick, kind of a laminate fiberglass, and that has no shape to it. I mean, it's essentially flat, and all the new tail pieces have all been designed with some aerodynamics to them, and it not only adds a little bit more aviation look to it, I guess, but also I think there should be some performance aspects that we see out of that too. One of them being there's a 30% increase in actual rudder area, even though the whole tail doesn't pivot. This rudder is actually about another 30% larger than the original, and I think the thought is that we'll get additional rudder authority that we didn't have before. So that is still that will be part of our future upgrades and testing. Right now, when the aircraft is, well, we're scheduling to fly that hopefully soon. The old tail will be used, but this is something that we'll be looking at implementing in the future here. And I think it's a great addition, both in aesthetics and function. It should function really well.
Yeah, I do too. It looks very nice.
A little more stylish changes to the push tubes, and made them a little more uniform, a little nicer. We added some. Let's see down here. We added some washers on the spherical bearings, and these washers have a cone shape to them to allow that spherical bearing to pivot a little bit further, and that's a little bit nicer action, easier on the bearings, and gives it a little bit better range of motion. That's one of the things that we were looking at, and let's see what else. I think that's about it. I mean, we tried not to do too much with the rotor head. The rotor head seems to have had very good function for years and years. No real problems with anything. I think that pretty much covers all the changes that we did for the sake of safety. We got new wheel pants. That's something different.
Right.
Just a little bit kind of fitting with the aesthetics, and you can kind of see the shape of the tail and the shape of the wheel pants are kind of harmonious there. The designer kind of took a look at the thing overall and tried to give it a look that was very aerodynamic, sleek looking, and I think he did a really good job of that.
He did a great job with it. We added the pilot hoop too, as you can see right around the seat tank there. And the pilot hoop not only gives us some protection, but it also provides some structure for the full enclosure. And the full enclosure is an option that will be available with the Air Command Gyroplane. And with that option, the engine we're using gives us heat and air conditioning, which we're both near Minneapolis. I can't think of a better thing to have for flying up by us in the winter. But having some heat would be a really nice thing. But it does give us our structure for the closed version with the full fuselage for the option. What I like about it when you put on the full enclosure is you have very easy access to adjust the rudder pedals, to do safety checks, inspections, check torque of bolts, things like that. It's very, very accessible. But the full enclosure will be an option available at some point in the future, but we're going to be starting with the open air version first with the Air Command Gyroplane. Keith, anything else before we wrap it up? I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you. I think a lot of the credit for these changes goes to you, Joe. I think you put a lot of thought and your own touches on what you think this aircraft needed to be and the changes that needed to be made to make it into a real Class A aircraft. And I think that's what you've accomplished here.
Well, thank you very much, Keith. I couldn't have done it without you. You've done a tremendous job. We've received tremendous comments. We've displayed the aircraft in some shape or form the last couple of years at AirVenture in 2023 and 2024. And combined with the Polaris engine, I think we have a very winning combination. We add the warp drive propeller. I think that's about the only thing we didn't touch on the entire aircraft, Keith, is probably the warp drive propeller. Kelly at Warp Drive would be very happy with us. So, but I think everything else we put our own touch on or redid something or readdressed it. We did something with it, but we're sure interested in your comments based on our illustration and run through of what we've done to improve the look, appearance, safety enhancements, different features of the Air Command single-seat gyroplane. Our plan is to receive the final parts that have been are currently being machined. There's not many to go yet. We should have the final parts here in the next week or two. We'll get them anodized black. We'll get them installed. We have to bring in the engine to have the muffler added and some of those features. The Polaris wiring harness came in 3-4 weeks ago, which is a custom designed harness that Keith designed, fits perfectly with the single seat gyroplane. Keith did a test fit, everything lined up just absolutely perfect. And so we're making our way more towards flying this in the first quarter of 2026. I think it'll be real exciting. And those plans are starting to come together, but we're getting very, very close.
I was just going to mention that if people want to take a look at the what the full enclosure looks like, I think there's still a video on aircommand.com that kind of shows the various iterations that we had. Kind of introduced those back a couple of years ago after the fiberglass work was completed. So people want to take a look at the full enclosure. There's a nice artistic rendering of that on the video. So take a look at that.
Right. Good point. Well, Keith, thank you for running through everything with us. It looks great. We're so excited to get this introduced to the market and have people enjoy flying the new single-seat Air Command Gyroplane. Thanks for the run-through today. If anybody has questions or comments or interest in what we're working on or signing up for more information, you can refer to our website, aircommand.com. We have a Contact Us page. Feel free to call us or contact us using that page with a very simple form to fill out. Just let us know what your questions or interests are, and we'll be happy to follow up with you. On behalf of Gyroplane Flying, this is Joe Covelli with Air Command and Skywheels. Thank you so much for being with us today.